Dear learners, today we are going to start uh, discussing the ProQual Level 7 Diploma in Strategic Health and Safety Leadership and Management units. Before, as all of you know, normally you are listening to my level 6 lectures, or you are in the class, or you are following me anywhere. So today we will discuss the first unit of this level 7 ProQual level 7 diploma in strategic health and safety leadership and management. Before going for first unit, because we have just started this qualification discussing at this platform, so what I will do before discussing the unit number 1, I will move forward to the qualification profile and the structure of this qualification to get a better understanding in the start, and you can manage your coursework accordingly. So here the complete name for this qualification is ProQual Level 7 Diploma in Strategic Health and Safety Leadership and Management. So moving forward, we will see the profile of this qualification. Here we have qualification profile. So the qualification title is ProQual Level 7 Diploma in Strategic Health and Safety Leadership and Management. The qualification number, which is registered in OFQL. So the OFQL qualification number is 603/6851/2. And the level of the qualification is level 7. Total qualification type means 500 hours, guided learning hours 260. So basically it is a qualification of 50 credit hours. So now moving forward, the assessment criteria will be pass or fail. So there is no number or number system there. There is no grading like that. So we have only pass or fail assessment criteria. And internally assessed and verified by center staff like the internal assessors of the center will do the assessment of this qualification, and even the IQA will be performed by the IQA of the organization. And then to make sure that the qualification is completed on on specified standard, the EQA will be performed by ProQual verifiers. So the qualification start date is 1/12/2020. So before going forward, I can confirm one more thing, that anyone who achieved this qualification can go for grad IOSH membership, and after that he can apply for CM IOSH membership. Now coming to the structure of the qualification, here we have the structure of the qualification is that you should complete all the units, because all the 5 units which are present in this ProQual Level 7 qualification are mandatory. And here we will see their distribution and everything. Mandatory units, unit reference number here, unit title, unit level, and guided learning hours. So the first unit reference number is A/618/5596. Unit title is Risk-Based Safety Systems Management, and the level of this unit is level 7. Although this is a qualification of level 7, but we still have 2 units of level 5. So, but we have to complete that one also to achieve this qualification fully. So the first unit is of level 7 and the guided learning hours are 50. Then the unit reference number for second unit is F/6185597. Safety culture, sustainability, and the global effect on performance. Unit level 7, guided learning hours 50. Then J/618/5598 digital technologies and incident investigation. Unit level is 5 and guided learning hours are 50. Then we have fourth unit L618/5599 development as a strategic manager. Unit level is 5 and guided learning hours are 50. Then we have the last unit, the unit 5, J/506/2048. Unit title is Establish Business Risk Management Processes. Unit level is 5 and the guided learning hours are 50. So to complete this qualification, you have to complete these 5 units completely. Basically, each unit is consist of learning outcomes. Normally, we call them LOs, and these LOs are consist of ACs, assessment criteria. So we have to fulfill all assessment criteria to achieve the learning outcome. To achieve the unit, we have to met all the learning outcomes. To achieve the qualification, we should pass all these units to get the achievement certificate or to get the status of qualification achieved. So now moving forward, I'm going to discuss the first unit. The unit reference is A/618/5596 and the unit title is Risk-Based Safety System Management. So I'm going to start. Okay. Today, we will discuss here in this lecture, unit number 1. So do remember, gentlemen, that whenever you are doing any NVQ qualification or any workplace qualification, like RQF on the RQF framework, like Autumn, Qualify, etc., do remember always that you have to complete your coursework with respect to your organization. Anything which is generic in information or which is from the bookish knowledge cannot be entertained here. Assessor will never give you grade pass then. So what you have to do always when you are doing your coursework for such qualifications, you should remember that whatever you are discussing in your coursework are using as an evidence here should be from your workplace. Second thing, if you are lacking something that which is not present there, then you are the person who has to develop that and try to implement in your organization. Because the purpose of these qualifications are normally to check your understanding with the relevant knowledge, and other than that, the purpose is to teach you that how you can develop new things, how you can develop the missing requirements, and you have to implement that. So basically, this qualification is not just checking your knowledge, it is also providing guidance to you for this purpose. So keep in mind, and now I am going to discuss this unit A/618/5596, risk-based safety management systems. We are going to discuss the safety management system with respect to risk and which are implemented in your organization. This unit aims to provide candidates with the knowledge of current ISO and other recognized standards. The implementation standard for occupational health and safety management systems, it will also evaluate the processes of risk management and risk communication. Okay. So normally this unit will focus on the ISO standards and the other recognized standards which are implemented in your organization. It will also evaluate the processes of risk management and risk communication in your organization. So, starting the first learning outcome, you should know that normally when we discuss health and safety, the standard which is relevant to our occupational health and safety management system is ISO 45001 OHSMS, like ISO 45001 2018 Occupational Health and Safety Management System. So you have to consider that. But do remember, in occupational health and safety management systems, there are three mainly relevant standards there. One is specifically for health and safety. I told you ISO 45001. The other two, which are most relevant to our management system, health and safety management system, are ISO 45001 and ISO 9001. EMS, Environment Management System 14001, and QMS 9001, Quality Management System. So at this stage, when you are doing a level 7 qualification, and even you are at this position in the organization, like you are in the top management, you should consider things in a wider sense, in a broader sense, instead of just sticking to some excuse me, to just basic things, or just to the specific 1-2 things. Here on this stage, or it is if you are even not considering with respect to your organization, but the requirement of this qualification is that you should consider all the things, or you should discuss all the things with respect to a broader sense, a wider sense, and you have to consider as much as you can do. But do remember, the things should be relevant. So I have discussed with you that 3 standards are here with respect to ISO, which can be considered and which should be considered. But mainly the standard we follow for this occupational health and safety management system is ISO 45001:2018 OHSMS. As I have discussed with you that each unit is consists of learning outcomes and assessment criteria. For learning outcomes, we have a short form LO, and for assessment criteria, we have AC. So this unit is consist of 3 learning outcomes, and the number 1 learning outcome has 8 assessment criteria. Second learning outcome has 9 assessment criteria. And the last one, the third one, learning outcome has 4 assessment criteria. So this unit is consist of 3 learning outcomes and 21 assessment criteria. To pass this qualification, to achieve this qualification, you have to achieve this unit. For achieving this unit, you should achieve all the 21 assessment criteria to get it passed. Now, I'm going to start from the first assessment criteria. Before that, we have a learning outcome number 1. Be able to develop and implement current ISO standards for occupational health and safety. Now you can see that here, now your job description is different. Like you are not just looking at the things that how they are implemented. This learning outcome wants to able you, actually want to train you, want to give knowledge for what that you should be able to develop and implement current ISO standards for occupational health and safety. As you can see here, the word standard is plural here. So it means that there is not only single standard there. We have to follow the standards like EMS and QMS. And as I have discussed earlier, that in your organization, like if you are doing a lot of things with mechanical, there is a mechanical safety standard is also there, which is 12,001. So you can explain here as much as standards which are relevant to your workplace. But I am discussing this unit considering that all the learners are coming from different organizations. So what I will discuss in general. But if any one of you has any other standard in his organization, he can discuss here. So for the first learning outcome, the first assessment criteria is 1.1. I am discussing all these things very slowly, very clearly, just to give everyone a proper understanding. So the first assessment criteria is by keeping in mind, what you have to keep in mind, the learning outcome, that here the 8 points, the 8 assessment criteria you have to discuss here are with respect to ISO standards for occupational health and safety management system. So the first assessment criteria is 1.1, evaluate the extent to which the processes of an occupational health and safety management system links to any ISO clauses. Here, you have to see in your organization, you have to evaluate in your organization that how much, simply you can say, sorry, how many processes of your organization's occupational health and safety management system links to any ISO clauses. Just let me make easy for you that you have to evaluate the clauses which are present in your occupational health and safety management system in your organization. You have to explain that, you have to evaluate that, you have to give the effectiveness of that. Like, for example, you will explain that ISO class of 45001 4.2.2 is implemented in our organization. You have to explain that for what purpose it is implemented and what are the benefits you are getting from it. So you have to explain like this. And in evidence to that, you have to produce or provide any evidence which can confirm that you have proper implementation of ISO standards in your organization. It can be like if you have a very detailed health and safety policy, health and safety manual, you have health and safety procedures, you have a complete health and safety management system in documented form. You can produce anything as an evidence, or even reviews of safety management system can also confirm. Because if how it can work, like if there is some non-conformities in that management review, that will be with respect to some standards, and if those standards are with respect to ISO clauses, then that can confirm that your organization is working according to some specified ISO standards. So you have to explain that in detail. And for evidence, I have told you these 4 to 5 things you can produce. But a simple, but do remember that it should be relevant, it should contain, consist of the material which we want to see from you as an assessor. Like if you have a very simple health and safety policy which is not confirming the implementation of ISO clauses or ISO standards, then that will not be considered any evidence. Even health and safety management system review report is lacking the information about the ISO clauses, cannot be used as an evidence. So you have to make sure that the evidences should be relevant and should contain what is required. Now moving to 1.2, analyze any gaps to be bridged to satisfy the requirements of an ISO occupational health and safety management system. Here in this in this assessment criteria, you have to analyze the gaps. Which gaps? Which should be bridged. What is the reason for that? For example, you have an occupational health and safety management system with respect to ISO clauses or ISO standards. Even you have implemented that management system in your organization, or your organization has a management system with respect to ISO classes implemented. But do remember, there are still gaps there. There are chances of improvement there. So you have to analyze with respect to your organization that what you are still lacking. What are the gaps still in your ISO, Occupational Health and Safety Management System? You have to analyze that gap. The analysis will confirm that what type of controls should you implement, or what type of controls you will use to bridge that gaps. So for that purpose, for this assessment criteria, you have to analyze the gaps present in your ISO Occupational Health and Safety Management System, and also you have to explain that how you will work, how you will work that gaps should be bridged to satisfy the requirement of an ISO Occupational Health and Safety Management System. For this purpose, analysis of management system, the better word we can use at this stage is that the review of ISO Occupational Health and Safety Management System report is the best evidence you can use here, because that can confirm the strength and weaknesses of your system. So you can give the evidence that last time in the review we are lacking this one, and now we have bridged these gaps by taking these actions. So that can also be used as an evidence for this 1.2 assessment criteria of unit number 1, learning outcome 1. Now moving to 1.3, evaluate the issues, challenges faced by an organization while implementing an ISO compliant or other recognized occupational health and safety management system. Here it is discussing that you have to evaluate. What you have to evaluate? You have to evaluate the issues and challenges which your organization, everyone should focus on his organization only. So what you have to evaluate? You have to evaluate the issues, challenges faced by organization while implementing an ISO compliant. ISO compliant means that if you want to work with some specified standard and you want to perform according to that, that will be a compliance. And even there is a word like non-compliance, is that when you are not working to that specified standard or law, then it goes for non-compliance. So here it is saying that when what are actually he's asking from you, that what are the issues and challenges your organization is facing. For what purpose? For implementation of ISO or other recognized occupational health and safety management system standards. So you have to explain there. So you should have their different documents there which can confirm that you have issues for implementing ISO or anything. So mainly as this qualification belongs to the top management normally, and the things which we are discussing are coming from the top management. So basically, the main focus will be from development, creation, implementation, and from the review of management system. So anything which has the information regarding the ISO which can be used as an evidence here. Now we have 1.4, evaluate the importance of understanding the organization and its context whilst framing occupational health and safety management system. This is a very important point. Other than this assessment criteria, that whenever your organization is developing health and safety policy and health and safety management system, along with when they are setting the objectives, it is very important that these policies and objectives should be developed while considering the nature of organization and its context. That what will be the scope of the organization, what will be the nature of the organization, what type of functions, processes will be there in that organization. So whenever you are framing any occupational health and safety management system, you have to consider this point. But this AC assessment criteria 1.4 is asking from you that you have to evaluate. What you have to evaluate? You have to evaluate the importance of understanding the organization and its context while framing occupational health and safety management system. What he is asking from you? He is asking from you, you have to explain the importance. Importance of what? Understanding the organization and its context whenever you are framing any occupational health and safety management system. So you have to explain the importance. Okay. Then in 1.5, we have analyze the external and internal issues have an impact on the way an organization manages its occupational health and safety management system responsibilities. Gentlemen, do remember one thing, that the qualification in lower standard, in level 6, in level 3, even if you have completed the level 6 qualification with me, you have seen there that in each assessment criteria, there are only two things. In each assessment criteria, you have two things to consider, to discuss every time. But here, in each assessment criteria, is asking for 3 to 4 things in a same assessment criteria. The other thing you have to remember in this level of qualification, that it is not that much tangible like what we have in lower levels, in level 6, in level 3. Here, the things are mostly intangible. So, it is quite difficult to explain the things which are intangible. Okay? So, you have to understand the theme of assessment criteria, and then you have to explain that. For example, in 1.5, he is asking for analyze the external and internal issues. First thing, then have an impact on the way. Now he is asking for the impact. It is not directly asking for the occupational health and safety management system responsibilities. It is asking for the impact on the way an organization manages its occupational health and safety management system responsibilities. So the main thing is that he is asking for external and internal issues which you and your organization is facing, whether it's externally or internally. Which issues which have impact on the organization manages occupational health and safety management system responsibilities. So actually, you have to discuss here the external and internal issues which your organization is facing, the issues which are impacting on your organization's management operations to fulfill occupational health and safety management system responsibilities. So simple is that here you have to discuss external and internal issues which your organization is facing while managing the occupational health and safety management system responsibilities. So here you can use any report coming from the managers, any review reports, any inspection reports, even the feedbacks can be used here, because that can also confirm the external and internal issues. Even the reports coming from outside, like regulatory authorities, like suppliers, that can be used here as an evidence. But you should see there that evidence is discussing the occupational health and safety management systems issues and also considering the ISO standards in that. Now we have 1.6, assess the way in which the activities of subcontractors and third parties might have a negative impact on an organization's occupational health and safety system. So here you have to perform the assessment. What you have to assess, activities of subcontractor and third parties might have a negative impact on organization's occupational health and safety system. So you have to see, you have to assess in your organization what type of activities which are performed by subcontractors or third parties which are having a negative impact on your organizational occupational health and safety management system. So there may be some contracts with contractors or risk assessments on higher level can be used and evidence here. So you have to assess the activities of subcontractor. You have to explain that what type of subcontractors you have in your organization working and what are their negative activities, even of the third parties, we might have a negative, which have negative impact on organization occupational health and safety system. You have to explain here in assessment criteria 1.6. Then 1.7, differentiate between the various recognized occupational health and safety standards. So here you have to describe the management system with respect to occupational health and safety you have in your organization. Okay. For example, you have ISO standard. If you have other standards other than ISO, you have standards in your organization, you have to explain here, but you have to explain here by keeping in mind the comparison between them, because it is asking for differentiate between. So you have to explain that this standard is there, why you have implemented different standards. You have to explain the differences there. So you have to complete it like that. Now the last assessment criteria is 1.8, ensure the alignment of the occupational health and safety management system with an organization's strategic goals, and that it meets legal, regulatory, and compliance requirements. Here, it is asking that you are doing a lot of things. You are developing, implementing a lot of things. With respect to your occupational health and safety management system, you are implementing, you are developing ISO standard, you are integrating them, you are working on that management system, and you are integrating many things with that. But in this assessment criteria, he is asking for what? That you are doing a lot of arrangements. You are developing and implementing a lot of things, but still you have to keep in mind that your organization, occupational health and safety management systems are able to achieve organizational strategic goals, and they should meet the legal, regulatory, and compliance requirements. Otherwise, these management systems are of no use. So even regulatory audits, legal audits, compliance audits can be used, audit reports can be used here as an evidence. But before going to the learning outcome 2, I want to just explain here something, that what is the actually the requirement, the difference between the legal, regulatory, and compliance requirements. Basically, the legal requirements which are coming from the law, we call them legal requirements. To implement that law, we have different bodies. We call them regulatory authorities or regulatory bodies. So that regulatory bodies also have some requirements. We call them regulatory requirements. And then we have standards, we have internal standards, we have internal standard requirements which we have to fulfill. We call them compliance requirements. So what you have to explain here, you have to explain here that the occupational health and safety management standards, system standards you have implemented in your organization are working toward the strategic goal, as well as they are meeting the legal, regulatory, and compliance requirements of your organization. So it was your first learning outcome of Unit 1, and we have discussed all 8 assessment criteria of this one. I think how much I am explaining you in detail will work for you, even if you are unable to complete your units or you are facing still some issue. You can contact me directly. Okay, so I will help you out. Then we have for guidance. Do remember, for guidance. Then we have now learning outcome 2, be able to evaluate strategic risk to an organization through the implementation of a quantifiable risk assessment system. Here in this learning outcome, it is focusing on strategic risk to your organization. And how you can evaluate that? You can evaluate that through the implementation of quantifiable risk assessment system, that you can measure them in terms of quantity. I just want to clear one thing here to all of you. When it comes to the safety, by its nature, safety is a qualitative thing. Okay? Safety is a qualitative thing. You can't quantify it. But when we use the word quantifiable, it will be for risk and hazards. Overall, safety is a qualitative thing. And whenever we need to quantify something in it, then do remember, normally we use a branch of mathematics, we call it statistics, instead of pure mathematics. That is another reason which can confirm that safety is a qualitative thing, not a quantitative thing. But when it comes to defining or evaluating risks and hazards, we divide it into qualitative risk, quantitative risk, and quantitative risk are hazard. So you have to keep in mind this concept, what I have discussed with you in last 2 minutes. So now moving forward, this learning outcome is focusing on evaluating strategic risk which your organization is facing through the implementation of a quantifiable risk assessment system. Now 2.1, we have assessment criteria with us. Evaluate the role of suitable leadership and management in the organization risk reduction system. Here you have to explain. Okay, here you have to explain. Even the bookish or generic knowledge will be enough, can be used here, because it is asking evaluate the role of suitable leadership. And if your organization is not having a suitable leadership, then you can't explain the role of suitable leadership. So here the requirement is about generic information. So what you have to do, evaluate the role of suitable leadership and management in the organization risk reduction system. You have to explain here role of suitable leadership for what, and management for what purpose? For organization risk reduction system. Sorry. So you have to explain what you have to explain, the role of suitable leadership and management, but the purpose mainly focus on organization's risk reduction system, that how they are working on that, and how they can work on that, and why their role is important, and what type of role you require from them, you need from them. So you have to explain here. Then we have 2.2, analyze the value of accident causation in managing the impact of risk, identify. So it is discussing about that what is the value of accident causation in managing the impact of risk identify. You have to explain, you have to analyze the value of accident causation in managing the impact of risk identify. Okay, so accident causation, that there are many accident cause, and impact of risk identify, you have to see the connection between them. You have to explain that connection, and that connection is actually the value, and you have to analyze that, you have to explain that. In 2.3, analyze the requirements of performing fault tree and event tree analysis to show fact-based decisions. So mostly people know very well there are two techniques we use normally for things went wrong in occupational health and safety, like accidents happened. So we use normally fault tree and event tree analysis. So you have to check, you have to just go through fault tree analysis and event tree analysis, and then you have to explain the requirements. You don't have to explain fault tree and event tree analysis here. You have to analyze the requirements of performing fault tree and event tree analysis. Like it is not like that if you have accident causation, some type of accident happens in your organization and you start doing the fault tree analysis, the event tree analysis. No, just first check it out that whether before performing fault tree and event tree analysis, what are the requirements? If the requirements are there, then you will start performing the fault tree and event tree analysis to show fact-based decision. Okay, the focus will be here in this learning outcome, the requirements. You don't have to jump onto the fault tree analysis and event tree analysis. The focus is here. What is the requirements for performing fault tree and event tree analysis to show how fact-based decisions? Then 2.4, analyze the relevance, validity, and value of different data sources and information to implement a quantified risk assessment model. So in this assessment criteria, what you have to do, you have to analyze. What you have to analyze? That you are going to, for example, it is asking to evaluate strategic risk by implementing quantifiable risk assessment system. As a management, you just start to implement a quantifiable risk assessment model is not enough. You have to explain, you have to explain, you have to analyze the relevance, the validity, how valid it is, and value of different data sources and information to implement a quantified risk assessment model. Like you are using fault tree analysis, you are using event tree analysis. Why you are using that? You have to check with respect to your organization, you have to check the relevancy, validity, and value of different data sources and information to implement a specified quantified risk assessment model. You have to see these things if you want to implement anything just like that. Otherwise, what happened? The accuracy of results, like you want to see the fact-based decision, will not be achieved, and you can't see the correct results or objectives will not be there. So should remember that before the implementation of a quantified risk assessment model, you have to analyze. So you have to explain why you have to analyze the relevance, validity, and value of different data sources and information before the implementation of any quantified risk assessment model. You have to explain here. Then 2.5, evaluate the internal and external factors influencing the selection of different risk quantification model. So in 2.5, we have evaluate the internal and external factors influencing the selection of different risk quantification model. Like it is asking for you that in your organization, if you have any risk quantification model placed there, so what type of internal and external factors which are influencing in selection of different risk quantification model? Sometimes what happened, like you want to go for uh, any model or any technique, there are some other factors which don't allow you to implement that, and you have to change that selection. So you have to explain here that what type of internal and factors can be there to influence the selection of different risk quantification models or even risk quantification techniques. So here we have 2.6 assessment criteria. Develop practicable action plans that improve controls to reduce strategic risk and present them at director board level. So it is something like that, that you have some risk quantifiable models and you are getting some things that what type of risk are there, what are the things are there. So you have to, you should be able to develop practicable action plans that improve control to reduce strategic risk and present them at director board level. You have to explain here, and here you can use an evidence that last time whenever you can produce 2 to 3 action control plans here as an evidence which can confirm that you have developed some control action plans, and you have provided you have presented to your top management and they got approved, or whether rejected, that is another thing, but you have to give evidence of that here. 2.7, develop practicable strategies on the ways in which an organization can assess hazards and risks following changes in organization's management processes and our equipment. So here you have to produce, first you have to explain anything, any strategies you have developed with the part of top management, what you have developed so far, for changes in organization management processes and our equipment, what are the risk hazards, what are the strategies you will use there, and after that you will explain, you will give evidences of that strategies, although you have communicated that strategies with your top management in the form of emails, in the form of hard copies, hard document or soft document. You have to produce evidence of that. 2.8, analyze the pitfalls in any risk transfer. You have to discuss here, you have to do the analysis of pitfalls in any risk transfer. You have to explain here in detail. 2.9, analyze the different types and categories of strategic and dynamic risk. So here you have to explain, you have to share the information of different types and categories of strategic and dynamic risk. Okay, do remember, it is not the simple type of risk. You have to consider the word like strategic and dynamic risk. You have to explain here, and what type of strategic and dynamic risk your organization has. You have to give some type of evidence here to fulfill this assessment criteria. Now we have completed the two learning outcomes with their respective assessment criteria. Now we are moving to the last learning outcome and its assessment criteria. Learning outcome number 3 is be able to articulate risk communication strategies in various situations. So you have to give here the communication strategies. Okay, with respect to risk, you have to give the communication. Okay, so be able to articulate risk communication strategies in various situations. So the first 3.1 assessment criteria is develop practicable strategies for risk communication for a range of situations that take stakeholders' requirements and legal requirements into consideration. So at this stage, practicable strategies, articulate risk means that articulate risk communication strategies may coherent, comprehensive, you can say, so that can work easily and fluently. So here it is asking about that you should develop practicable strategies for risk communication for a range of situations that takes stakeholders requirement and legal requirement into consideration. That you don't have to consider only your organization, you internally, you have to consider the externally other stakeholders and what are the legal requirements into consideration. Then you have to develop the practicable strategies for what? For risk communication, that you have to communicate the risk to different stakeholders. So you should develop practicable strategies. If you develop that, you have to provide the evidences here, and also you have to explain this here. 3.2, assign ownership and accountabilities and gain agreement from managers, director, and the workforce for strategic and dynamic risk. So in the last learning outcome, we have seen in the 2.9 assessment criteria about strategic and dynamic risk. Now it is asking that you should have a clear plan, a plan of assigning ownership and accountabilities, that who is accountable for what and how he is accountable. You have to assign ownership, that people should know that they are answerable, they are accountable with respect to strategic and dynamic risk. So you have to explain that, and you also have to explain that in your organization how you are managing the ownership and accountabilities about the strategic and dynamic risk. You have to provide the evidence of that. In 3.3, evaluate the importance of effective communication and consultation in a risk management process. Here, what you have to do, you have to evaluate. What you have to evaluate? The importance. Importance of what? Importance of effective communication and consultation in a risk management process. That your organization is managing risk. There is a risk management process, and you have to see that what is the importance of effective communication and consultation. As all of you know that effective communication and consultation is an integral part of occupational health and safety management system. Without this, even we are unable to properly implement occupational health and safety management system in our organization. So you have to evaluate and explain the importance of effective communication and consultation in a risk management process, and you have some type of effective communication and consultation process there with respect to risk management process should produce here as an evidence. Then we have the last assessment criteria of lost learning outcome of this unit. Analyze the way in which a crisis communication could differ from a risk communication. That is really important. For this, you should know before explaining that you should know that what is the crisis communication and what is a risk communication. Like crisis communication means that it is some type of emergency happened and you have to communicate that. But in risk communication, you have to follow the process. You have to follow the process of like identifying the things and everything. So it is different from that. For example, the crisis communication is always in a hurry. The crisis communication is just is due to some emergency, so all the things are happening in emergency, you are informing everyone like that. But in risk communication, you have to see, you have a time when you are developing a risk management process. There you have a proper time for risk developing a risk communication model or risk communication process that can confirm that to whom you have to communicate and how you will communicate, and what are the different stages or what are the different times you are going to communicate. But when it comes to crisis, you only have to communicate. You don't go for any management or anything, any process there. So in crisis communication, you have to communicate, you can say suddenly, hurriedly. But in risk communication, you can use some model, some process, and you can take some time. So you have to also explain a crisis communication and a risk communication difference. And also you have to provide some evidence that in your organization, how you are managing the crisis communication and how the risk communication. This is all for this unit, gentlemen, and I hope this will really help for you. And if you need any type of information or anything, the number and email is already mentioned on this channel, and you can get any type of additional guidance from you. And we will see each other in upcoming lectures. Okay, thank you very much and goodbye.